Hey there guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be a video again more directed towards new players, and this one's going to be coming from a suggestion that came from the last one. RC asked me, like, hey Malorian, can you talk about building a list? Now, this is going to be more of an introduction, like I said, for newer players. Of course, we'll kind of build on that past it. And in future videos, I'm going to be talking about making list pairings. But this one here will be just about building a list and what considerations you should be making as a brand new player and as a little bit more of an experienced player after that. So really, the assumptions I'm making coming into this video is that you like the idea of Warmachine, you've learned the rules, you've started playing a few games, and started doing some tweaks, and now you really want to start working on solid lists and something that, will really get some starting results. Maybe not like winning all the games, don't get your hopes over the moon type thing, but the starting to get some lists are like, yeah, this is where I want to be. And I would say the very first spot, already having the assumption that you picked a faction, is going to be the idea of what game style, what play style do you want this list to be? Now, this could be based off what your own, personal preferences are, or it could also be based off what you're seeing out there, but probably as a newer player, I'd be basing your decisions on the way you're going to be making your list on what you like to play. If you're a person who likes going bang, bang, bang and shooting all the things, well, let's go and build a range list. If you're a person who likes taking lots of robots and stompy things, well, then take a list that has lots of stompy things. You see where I'm getting here? You want to be building a list that's going to be based around what you like to play, because if you build a list straight off the bat as a new player as what you think is good, you can run into a lot of problems. Maybe one thing I'll touch on right here is net listing. Now, net listing is something where you go out there, you find what the internet says is a good list, and you steal that. And to be honest, I don't think that's a really good spot to start for new players. And the reason for that is that you probably don't understand at this point what that list is even supposed to do, right? All these pieces are in here, and some of it might be obvious, like, oh geez, this thing seems really good, but there'll be a lot of synergies and combos and counterplay that until you start really playing, you're not going to really get. And so it's probably a lot better to say, like, okay, push those aside for now. What type of thing do I like doing, and building off of that. So once you have that core idea, once you have an idea that I like playing a list that does X, you now need to find models that do X. Now, and I think the very first spot that you'll want to start with this is probably the casters. So looking through the casters of your factions, and again, don't go to one that catches your mind first. Kind of read through all of them and say, okay, what benefits does this caster have for what I'm trying to do? Does it have a feat that help me? Does it have spells that help me, or abilities? Or maybe that model itself, maybe the caster plays a very critical role in the play style that you're trying to get across. And so because the caster, the warcaster, the warlock, whatever it may be, is probably going to be one of the most influential models in your army, that's probably the very first spot you wanna be starting with. Now, past that, it really depends on what you're trying to get from the list. If you're trying to get a list with just like tons of dudes that are going to get up there and get across the board, well, start with the infantry and start grabbing the infantry that you like. If you want to have a bunch of cavalry and you're going to be smashing in there, well, start in and adding in that infantry. You see where I'm getting at. Try and find the idea, get the leader that's going to really embrace it and support it the most, and then start off just by having those elements in there. Now, that's going to be the real bulk, the real mainstay of your list, and about what it's trying to do. And it's about this time now that you really want to develop in your mind that with this play style, what's going to be my win condition? Again, the way that you're going to be winning this game is either by killing the enemy caster, by winning by scenario, or also by death clock. And really by looking at this core of taking that caster and the main elements of what you're saying, this is going to be my play style, start thinking about what exactly it is that you need to do with those elements in order to win. if what you're trying to do is go for assassination, then with the remaining points you have, from your warjack points or your infantry or solos or wherever you have your points left over, go in there and really start saying, what extra elements that aren't really the main body of my list, what other things can I add which are going to help nudge me along towards this win condition? Now, you'll notice that I said before that you might also want to be building a list to counter other things. This is where you might be really building a real like toolbox is what's talked about, where if I see this, I want to counter this, and if this comes, I'm going to counter this. As a new player, I would still not be doing that. I'd be focusing on you yourself. I'm assuming that as a new player, you have not learned and memorized every other model and every single rule out there. At this point, you need to work on your own models and developing an understanding of what you yourself are trying to do before you're trying to figure out what your opponent's trying to do and how you're going to counter that. So again, you're going to be going in and trying to decide that depending on how I want to win this game, these are the extra pieces I'm going to put into my list to make this happen. At that point now, you're going to basically have a first draft of this list, and it's probably going to be okay. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure you read through all those rules. Before you get in there and you start playing and you start maybe making some mistakes, you're like, yeah, I'm sure this is how it works, and it turns out you got it way wrong. Just make sure you read through all those cards to understand all the little abilities, all the little nuances, so that when you do start playing, it's not going to be like, oh, I forgot this did this, or anything like that. You want to make sure you understand your own army. Once that's done, all you can really do is play with it. Take it, get it out there, and start playing. And once you start playing with it, this is when you can start refining. Play that list, finish the game, and then after the game is done, really ask yourself, for every little choice that you took in that list, did it do what I wanted it to do? Maybe the first thing to ask yourself is, did you win? And if not, why? What was the part that seemed to be missing? Was it because, like, ooh, I was trying to assassinate, but I just could not remove this infantry that was in the way? Or I just couldn't deal with the stealth in order to get onto there? Well, if that was something that was keeping you from your win condition, look through your options and see what you can be adding in order to deal with those problems that kept you from your win condition. And at the same time, go through each one of those choices in your list and really analyze, how useful was it? Was there anything in there that is like, well, when I first built my list, I thought this would be very cool, but it really didn't do very much? Or is it something that you put in there as like, well, it is very cool and it did an interesting thing, but it did not progress the game to the win condition that I was going after? And if that's what's going on, if you have a very cool model that's doing cool things, but you lost the game because you did not have the right support pieces you needed to set up that win condition, well, it's time to take out those cool things and move into stuff you need to have to actually enable you to win the game. And really from that point, it's just continual refinement. Play some more games, and then as soon as those are done, again, reanalyze every single one of your choices and see if what they did set you up for what you wanted to do for your win condition, and maybe even just not the win condition, just how well they actually performed overall. And you're just going to more so improve and improve and improve that list. Now, it could be that while playing that list, you might completely change your mind. You might say like, oh man, you know what? I really thought that the way that I was going to play this game is ranged assassination, but it just isn't working for me. And where I found the most success was when I was actually just going and jamming and going for scenario. Well, maybe what you want to do is, if you're really not finding success in the win condition that you're going after, take a breather and then start following a different path. You know, you can refine down one path to try and go after one win condition. But if you're starting to feel either that this other one was more effective, or if you just kind of liked it some more, feel free to go on an adventure and really develop that area and start saying, if I took this and I decided instead of assassination, I'm going to go to scenario, how would I change this list? And then again, start those out and try them out. And really that's what's going to come down to. Trial and error as you go through and figure out what things are working for you and what things you really enjoy playing. And that's it. I want to keep that as simple as that. We can get to some more complex things after about how you want to be building toolboxes and all that. But that's really going to come in later on when we start looking about tool lists and how you're starting to start preparing for all the different things you might be seeing. So there you go, RC, that's how you're going to make a list. Really summarizing it again, come up with the idea of what you really want to do as a play style. Find the Warcaster that you think is going to embrace it the best. Find the main elements, the real heart of what you're trying to do, and put that in that list. And then look around and put in the support pieces that's really going to aid it in whatever win condition you're going to be going for. And then after that, trial and error, trial and error, and trial and error. All right, there you go. That's how you make a list. If you have any other suggestions of things you want to see me talk about, please post it down below. But otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.